2, 1.
Ooh, welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of Full Press Radio. This is February the 8th, a Tuesday, a rare Tuesday episode. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
I'm so tired, Carl. I've had very many late nights over the last week.
So the reason would be what? Why are you get some sleep? It's not that hard.
No, first of all, speak for yourself. But that's a topic for a whole other podcast.
I mean, yes, okay, I will agree with that. And I don't even have kids. I don't even have to worry about that part of life. So yes,
I have been watching Olympic hockey, women's hockey to be specific. As I think most people know, Aaron Ambrose, fan of the show, extended family of mine, is in Beijing currently playing hockey for Team Canada.
And scoring for Team Canada.
And scoring goals. She has scored 2 goals, and I haven't seen either of them.
Wow. Because you've been asleep?
Because the first goal she scored, there's 2 seconds left in the game.
Yeah, that one was tough to stay up for.
The other goal, I was sleeping and I feel someone hitting me. And my wife, Christy, was like, "Are you awake?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "Aaron scored." And I was like, "Okay." And I went back to sleep. Like, you had to wake up to tell me that.
And it's worth waking up. If there's anything worth waking up for, it's that.
True. I've had a rule. If it's a blowout, I let myself go to sleep. So anytime the score hits like 5-0, 6-0, I'm like, okay, I can go to bed now.
Because she scored in the Russia game, did she not?
She scored in the Russia game, and I fell asleep because that game took over an hour to start.
That was tough. I mean, I have a 2-hour advantage over you, and I wasn't able to stay up and watch that game.
Yeah. What a crazy, what a crazy set of circumstances. The Russian team did not get their COVID results back in time, test results. So they did not submit it to the Canadian team. So the Canadians refused to come onto the ice. Took about an hour to get sorted. Finally, both teams came out wearing KN95 masks and played the first 2 periods.
No, I've heard you can't breathe through those. How did that work?
They figured something out because they played the entire hockey game.
It's wild what you can manage to pull off wearing one of those things.
What a crazy thing to play an entire hockey game. And that we heard afterwards, it was not the most comfortable thing.
Oh, I can imagine.
But they went out and they did it, and they won 6-1, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. Played an amazing game, but a tough situation. And now, I don't know if you saw today the latest update, because Finland and Russia played again last night.
Yeah.
And then today, 8 players from the Russian team tested positive.
Is it 8 players on their hockey team or 8 players on the total Russian Olympic
that
squad?
I don't know.
I think it's the latter. I think only 1 player on the team tested positive.
Okay. So 8 Russian Olympic athletes. Okay.
I believe that's what the case is. And the Finns wore their masks last night too. The Russians against Canada took their masks off for the 3rd period because apparently they got their COVID results back and they were all negative. I don't know what's happening there. The whole thing is a very weird situation. But I'm pretty happy that the Canadians stayed masked for that 3rd period.
Definitely a smart choice, especially. I mean, it seems wild that we're able to hold an event like that. And yet when the protocols that are in place start to fall apart, that's when it starts to become a little more risky. So I get that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first 3 games, I think, were against the Swiss, the Finns, and then the Russians. Not much to talk about there. But did you watch last night's game against the US or parts of it?
I did. I watched until partway through the 3rd period. So I went to sleep and then woke up and saw the final result.
Man, that's good hockey.
It is incredible. There's I cannot think of a game between those two, because this was, I mean, it wasn't an irrelevant game. right? The winner of the game won the pool, got to play the worst team in the next round, which is always a perk. But
yeah,
I mean, they played tough competitive hockey. Canada did a great job. I was nervous with how many shots that they were giving up in that game. Goaltending was fantastic. Obviously, I think that was the key to the game, right? How well she played in net.
Oh, especially in that first period. Like they did not have a good first period. They got lucky on that penalty call and scored a power play goal. Well, they didn't get lucky. It was a penalty.
But, but they shouldn't have taken it.
Yeah, they capitalized on a power play and finished a period 1-0, but they were outshot like 24-4 or something like that.
I think they scored on their third shot of the game, and at the time the US had like 10.
Yeah, so not a great first period, but the rest of the game was pretty. I mean, they still got outshot, but it was more even, and it was very exciting all the way through.
Absolutely, yeah. And you could tell both those teams, I mean, incredibly skilled teams, clearly the best two teams in the tournament, and it's not close. And it was great to see. And what I'm loving is that with the place that women's hockey continues to get at, that I know more of these players on both of these teams, right? Yeah. Like they show up and I'm like, I know these rosters, and that's where I want to be, where now I can be like, know what to expect from these games. And that's fantastic.
Absolutely. It makes it so much fun. Here's a question I have about women's hockey for you, though. Not about women's hockey. Have you ever seen, it is about women's hockey now that I think about it. Have you ever, I told you I was going to be loopy tonight.
just so you know, Nick has slept probably 10 hours combined this past week. So.
I was like, do you want to go tonight? And I was like, yes, but I'm going to be a little loopy. Have you ever seen a non-contact sport have this much contact in it?
That's a very good point. I mean, like I said, I think we've all played like some beer league, which is usually non-contact, and there's always a little bit. And that's what I kind of like use as my metric for like what's contact in a non-contact sport. But I mean, it's definitely, these games are officiated differently than the rest of the tournament, which I find interesting because they let so much more go. Because you would be calling everything if you called every body contact.
They let actual body checks go.
Yeah.
Like every 30 seconds, I'm like, that's a penalty. That's a penalty. That's a penalty. I haven't looked it up, but I'm going to, because I really want to know what the rule book says about contact in this sport.
Yeah. Because
it's mind blowing to me. I like it. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, no one's bending over and delivering hip checks.
No. And I mean, the players don't seem to have an issue with it. And that's what they're not being put in unsafe situations in these games. So,
yeah. And you know what, to your point, you kind of hinted at it too. It is pretty unique to a game like last night when these two teams are evenly matched. Like there was not this much contact in the earlier games of the series.
No, I mean, it wouldn't be fair if Canada were to go out and start laying the body against Switzerland. That just wouldn't be a thing we should be doing.
Just it always blows my mind when I watch women's games. So confused. What is a penalty?
I mean, I think that's what we say when we watch any hockey these days is what is a penalty?
Oh, that's true. We didn't get to watch much NHL hockey this week, though.
No, we had 3 days of hockey. Today's the 4th. We had the All-Star game this past weekend. Did you have a chance to watch any of it?
I watched some of the skills competition because it was on Friday night and I had to stay up for the late Olympics game. So I watched parts of the skills competition.
Anything stand out to you?
Yeah. Trevor Zegras.
My
is
goodness.
The first thing that comes to my mind.
Do you think so? For those that didn't see, you need to go back and watch because this is a audio podcast. But a blindfolded spinorama with using the toe of his stick, the toe of his stick to move the puck around.
Yeah, like he basically flipped the puck onto the blade of his stick when he crossed the blue line. did a few spins, and the puck never touched the ice until after it went in the net.
Yeah.
It was like the
Unreal
floating
goal.
puck. So cool.
Blindfolded.
Blindfolded.
And didn't win the competition.
That's silly. Who won? I don't even know who won.
Alex Petrangelo won because it was in Vegas and he plays for Vegas.
Okay. So, and it's not one of those things like you have to hit X amount. Like it's a subjective.
Yeah, it's a
contest.
judged competition. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw John Hamm was there.
John Hamm was there. One of those magician guys was there.
Mark Messier.
Mark Messier was there.
Not sure I see that connection.
They had to have someone who's played hockey on the panel, I think, is what they had to do.
Is Mark Messier charismatic? Like, is he someone hockey fans are like, oh, cool, Mark Messier's there. That's fun.
No.
Right?
I don't think so. He doesn't excite me. I'm not like, oh, he's got some good stuff to bring.
Like, it's weird to me that they would go out and get Mark Messier of all people in the NHL alumni organization.
He must have just been the most available.
He's probably always available.
Yeah.
Just calling Bettman every week. Gary, got anything for me?
We
voicemails.
I'm don't really just want to hand out my award every year. Can I do something else? But like, he must be some. Do you remember? Like, he's done multiple commercials in the past. I remember his Lay's commercials.
But you can't have just one.
And I always, even back then, I never really put it together until now. But I was confused. Why him? He wasn't particularly good at it.
You know, Carl, that you say that, I can still hear the crunching in my ears when he bit down on that chip.
Yeah, it's unnecessary.
It's good marketing.
And now that we're in this world of like everyone using headphones and things like that, and like we very much make sure like we don't eat while podcasting because no one wants that sound in their ears. But
no,
that's what Mark Messier gave us.
Yeah.
So I mean, Trevor Zegras, amazing performance there. What did you see? Either the new events, the blackjack, or the shooting pucks in a fountain?
So I didn't see blackjack. I turned around to the TV once and saw Nazem Kadri shooting at cards, and I was like, "Oh, that's the blackjack thing." And then I turned back around. I did watch the fountain one though.
It was shockingly difficult for them to saucer pass onto those little fountains.
It didn't look like it should be that hard though, right? Like, okay, it would be hard for you and me, but it didn't look like it should be hard for an NHL player.
I do think so. One thing that makes that harder, having been there, there's a lot when they shoot those things off, like there's a lot of spray and just like wind that comes off of them.
Right.
And you're not used to having wind in an NHL arena, especially when you're throwing a saucer pass. So I think that was the biggest, like having the elements was it added a surprising element of difficulty.
Yeah. It's that and having to activate the light on the puck. Can they just not have gotten pucks that activated themselves?
No, you got to smack it real hard with your stick to turn that light on.
It was kind of silly. I loved it as like a skill, what do you call it? Like display, like a display of skill, watching them try to do it. You know what I didn't think worked for them on that contest is the players' personalities. I thought it was kind of boring, actually.
Yeah, they didn't pick the best. For those ones, you got to pick the guys who you want to hear them stand around and banter for 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Like I swear I could hear Jerry D at times saying like, guys, give me something to work with.
Now, Jerry D, great call.
He was actually funny. And he was playing off of the fact that they were giving him nothing. Like you could sense his, I don't know, frustration.
Yeah. Yeah. Crowd work is hard when the crowd's not giving you anything.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I agree. They need a little more personality when there's that much like silence and dead time.
Yeah. I thought the blackjack was interesting. I didn't realize that like once the card was gone, you couldn't use that card for future rounds. So it made it tough. Like it was only possible that two of them could make it. It was interesting, like just the fact that they shut down the strip. I'm not sure if that was necessary. Like there's a lot of space in Vegas to do that. It didn't really add it. Like it didn't look like you were on the street. It didn't look like, it just looked like you were on the sidewalk. That didn't really add anything. So if I was a Vegas traveler that night, I would have been pretty upset about that.
Now, were they shooting pucks at the cards?
Yeah, those same light up pucks that you had to smack real hard, they were using those too.
Right.
And they were shooting pucks. Stamkos hit I think it was Stamkos or Pavelski. I think Stamkos hit a light, like one of the lights that they had in the back of the display. He shot a high card and broke a light and the card. So
classic Stamkos. He's always breaking things.
It's nice that it wasn't him for a change, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I thought that was a good event. In general, the skills competition, maybe it's because I was like extra distracted while watching it this year. I thought it flowed better than normal.
Yeah.
I thought that like there was less downtime in between events, maybe because they pre-recorded those outdoor segments. So they could like go to those and then do the in-arena changing up things, which probably made for a worse in-arena product, which is disappointing for those fans there. That you like, I paid this ticket to watch these guys do a thing on a Jumbotron. That's not what I'm here for.
Yeah. You know which one I didn't see was Hardest Shot.
Oh, I missed that one too.
I wonder who won that.
I want to say it was Roman Yossi, but I could be mistaken.
Interesting. Well, none of it matters because Trevor Zegras is he stole the show.
Absolutely. Amazing performance by him. And that was where the personalities came out, right? You saw some of that, right? Jack Hughes, like doing the magician shtick, and all that. Disappointing that he immediately tested positive for COVID when coming back. Yeah.
And terrifying. Like one player from literally every team in the league was there with him.
Yeah, it's fine. They weren't close on the bench or in the game or at the skills competition. It was fine.
Yeah, of course. Totally fine.
Whatever. That's what we do now.
I'm pretty sure his brother in Vancouver tested positive too.
Yeah. I don't know if he was, I assume that they were together and that has a connection, but it could just be a weird coincidence.
Yeah, could be.
And you didn't watch the game at all?
You know what? I didn't. I don't even know who won. I assume the Metro Division won.
You assume correctly.
Because I know that Claude Giroux won the MVP.
Yes.
It's kind of random.
Yeah. It seems like going away present from Philadelphia. Here you go. It was kind of awkward. They interviewed him after the first game. The panel interviewed him. So it was like Ron McLean and Elliot Friedman and Kelly Rudy, and like no bones about it. I think it was Ron asked him. They're like, so are you like getting offers from some of these guys to come play with them right now? And he's like, well, I'm still a Flyer. So that's where I'm going to be.
It seems to me like there's a time and a place for questions like that. And, like before the All-Star game, the commissioner and the deputy commissioner sit down and they're like, okay, hit us with all your questions. Like they do a very serious press conference. But I feel like for the players, mid-game, when this is supposed to be a fun, silly event and their kids are around, you got to ask him about where he's going to be traded to.
Especially like, has anyone made the case for you to come there?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That being said, I think Claude Giroux is going to be traded.
Oh, it sounds very inevitable at this point in time.
Yeah.
Any takeaways from that Gary Bettman press conference? You mentioned a serious press conference. He touched on every hot button issue that we've talked about here. He addressed all of them.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember specifically what he was talking about. I mean, we're going to eventually cover the things we cover every week on the show if we go through this press conference, right?
So he talked Coyotes Arena.
Yeah.
He's okay with it. Shocking.
Of course
Gary Bettman wants to make things work in Arizona. He talked about the Blackhawks, and we're going to talk about them soon, so we can hold off on that.
Okay.
He talked about events in Canada and threatened to move the draft if they can't remove attendance restrictions.
Not only that, he hinted at the fact that some teams were asking if they could play games in the US.
Which is, it sounds like Ottawa was one of them, I believe, which doesn't surprise me in the slightest. That a team low in attendance was like, hey, can we make a little bit of money here?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think any of that's going to come to fruition.
No, especially right now as things are lifting.
Yeah, exactly. Like if there was no end in sight for these restrictions, I could see that conversation moving forward. But at this point, every province that I know of has put in motion plans to allow fans back into arenas. So
I was going to say, Alberta's doing 50% as of the next Flames game as of tomorrow. So
yeah,
Flames Oilers will be back at 50%.
Yeah.
Which is essentially sends max capacity is 50%. So they're fine.
February 21st, I believe they can go to 50%.
In Ontario.
In Ontario and in Quebec.
Yeah. So Gary Bettman pumped the brakes. Like his posturing in so many ways. He talked about the Flames arena situation. And I cannot stand listening to Gary Bettman poke his annoying little nose in the middle of not even just like other cities' politics, but like you have no stake in this other than the hockey team and their well-being. You don't have the fans' interest at mind. You literally are only there for the owners and care nothing about what you do outside of that.
I mean, that's Gary Bettman. Like the one thing that I find is funny, the longer his tenure as commissioner goes, is that he cares less and less about how he comes across. I find.
Yeah.
Like he just doesn't seem to care anymore. He's like this Phoenix. He doesn't even defend Phoenix anymore or Arizona. Yeah. He's like, it's going fine. I believe in it.
Yeah, we can make it work. We can play in a 5,000 person arena and they'll make more money than they do now.
What's insane?
I mean, maybe they have a terrible agreement right now, and that's how that works. Which wouldn't surprise me.
Could be.
So yeah. Anyways, pretty good All-Star game weekend. The games were fine. That the last game was pretty competitive. Like they actually like looked like they were trying. It wasn't full on like actual 3-on-3, but it was like it would be comparable to a let's go Sabres Coyotes overtime game. That's what it was like watching.
Like I like that comparison.
They're in different conferences. There's nothing at stake, or even worse than that. It was like watching the last 5 minutes of a tied Sabres Coyotes game in the third period, where you're like, these guys are just playing for overtime, and if there's a breakaway, they might actually try to score.
That's great. I love it. What were some of the scores? Were they like 8-5, 9-6?
They were pretty low. I think the winning game, it was 6-4. There was a 6-3 and one was like 8-6, I think. So yeah, pretty low scoring in general.
It's like pretty standard for NHL games these days.
That scoring's low, or
like 6-3 is a pretty standard score that you see on like a Tuesday night.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But that's at 5-on-5.
That's 5-on-5 playing 60 minutes, not 20 minutes. Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. It was good. It was what it was. It was the breaks in between periods was too long. That was something they got to figure out for next time. Even there was some sort of unknown delay for one of them, and even like the CBC crew was at a loss of what they should talk about. They were like, Jen, you want to talk about goaltending? And she just riffed on it. And great job by her, but a struggle.
It's pretty bad if you manage to stump Ron McLean, Elliot Friedman, and Kevin Bieksa.
Right.
And Kelly Rudy.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was good. All right. We alluded to the Blackhawks and their front office issues. There was a town hall meeting with the Chicago Blackhawks this week, and chairman of the board, Rocky Wirtz, was answering some questions and was asked one by Mark Lazarus, asking kind of what they're doing to move forward, and did not have the most eloquent of responses to what he said. Because his answer was that it's only to those who work in the company was his answer, that everyone else it was not important for.
And none of their business.
Yes.
First of all, what a softball question.
It was the easiest of questions to make something up for. Just
right?
Lie. That's all you had to do.
Like, you'd almost think that Mark Lazarus was trying to do the team a favor. Yes. This is really good press for you. Tell us all the good things that you're doing.
Right.
And let me walk you through my mental journey for when this happened and kind of how it went in my brain. Okay. First of all, I was shocked. I was like, oh man, this is very much in like a old man yells at cloud kind of thing. Like I was shocked. And then I thought, how could they have not been prepared for this? Like, this is from a PR perspective, you're putting your ownership and management team in front of a bunch of reporters after the scandal of the year in hockey. And you're not going to prepare them to talk about Kyle Beach and what transpired there. Like, that was really bad.
Especially sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I mean, especially the fact that you are literally having like a town hall where you're there to answer questions, to talk things. If you have an open mic question period with the media as management, and you say we're moving forward and making things better, and aren't prepared to talk about it, what have you been doing?
Yeah. And like, what did you expect from the media? And then it started to like, and then I moved on into more angry territory where it was very clear to me that Rocky Wirtz is just didn't really care that much, right? He didn't want to address the situation. He didn't want to talk about the situation. We paid our dues, and let's move on. I don't want to talk about it anymore. And there's this underlying thing here that it's like, this is like crimes were committed against people, and like young people, vulnerable people. And this is the level of sensitivity that you're going to show towards that. It felt, I don't know, it just felt gross.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is this culture of like we talk about the culture of the hockey club, like starts from the top down, and that's how the top's acting. If you watch the clip, you saw his son Danny try to interject and say, I'll answer the question, and he shut him down, and he said nope. And everyone on that stage was frozen. They did not want to disobey the boss.
Well, and as the boss of that board and where he's at, the fact that he came out and gave one of the worst apologies I've ever seen afterwards, like 2 days later, not even later that night, not even the next morning, but like, okay, fine, I guess we should say something because this isn't going away. And the fact that he came out and did that, but nothing else happened, right? The board didn't vote to remove him. Nothing was done, right? It shows that the Blackhawks are fine with the way that this is being handled and the way that it is. You talk about them as an organization. I was talking with one of our listeners who is a Chicago Blackhawks season ticket holder. Future former Chicago Blackhawks season ticket holder. And I think you're going to see that there are going to be a number of fans that will refuse to give this organization their money anymore because they don't support the way that they're handling things.
Yeah. And that's how it has to happen. Like, the fans ultimately hold the power here. So taking concrete action like that is the right thing to do. That's kind of all we can do. And, especially hockey is very much a family event if you're going to a game. And I think it was even Wayne Gretzky the night that this happened or the day after. He was like, how do you explain this to your kids?
Right, absolutely.
Right. So, like, I don't know. I could totally see fans turning on them at this point to be like, how am I going to explain this to my kids? I don't want my kids to be involved in stuff like this. Like, is this what happens when you get to be a professional hockey player? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what you have to deal with. So it's embarrassing. Clearly, nothing has changed with that organization, and until different management is in place, it's not going to change. Ownership doesn't really care to change it. So
No.
Until that changes. Sorry, Chicago Blackhawks fans. You deserve a better hockey team than what you're getting.
100%. Absolutely, they do.
All right, let's take a break here. We'll be back on the side. We still got more news to get through and the elimination station. Three, two, one.
Okay, we got a little bit more news to get through before we go and eliminate somebody.
Yes, we do.
But a team that we never talk about made the news this week.
That's true. It's nice that we have some new teams making some news and some things, and an interesting approach taken. I think interesting, kind of what they're doing, but maybe not. Maybe it's not interesting. But I want your thoughts. The Anaheim Ducks. They made their GM announcement this week, announcing that Pat Verbeek is going to be the GM, but also simultaneously announcing just today, I guess not exactly simultaneously, but similarly, that Scott Niedermayer is going to be coming on as a special advisor to hockey operations. So those two people joining the organization. Pat Verbeek, though, an interesting choice.
I think he's been like low key on a lot of teams' radars for a while. He was working with Yzerman in Tampa Bay, I believe, I don't know if he was an AGM or just an advisor. And then when Stevie moved to Detroit, he brought Pat Verbeek with him. And Verbeek's been the AGM in Detroit for the last few years. And like, sure, Stevie's been captaining the ship, but someone like the assistant general manager plays a huge part in what happens. So to see the success of the Tampa Bay Lightning and then to see what's happening with Detroit now, I think it's pretty good for his resume.
Very, very much so. Absolutely. And to see that when the GM wants to bring their assistant with them is a great sign as well, right? They're like, this guy's doing what I need him to do. They clearly are working closely together.
Absolutely. Now, purely for the fact that he's worked under Steve Yzerman for so long, I'd say that's a great hire for the Anaheim Ducks. You can never go wrong.
I figured you would have a little bit of bias there, but this is the, like, it feels like the 8th or 9th former Red Wing that's been named as a new front office role in the past month. What is happening with former, like, the Red Wings of the 90s now being hired to GM roles?
That team was incredible in the 90s. Like, they had so much talent on that team. It does not surprise me that it's translating over to management now. There's good hockey minds.
Well, and I think that's it, because it wasn't just a skilled team. There were a lot of very skilled players, but a group of guys that played under Scotty Bowman and learned a lot under him. And then a group of guys that were clearly, bright and knew what they were doing. And it pains me to make that statement.
And look, Carl, here's two more who are not currently active in the NHL circles, but I'm making a prediction right now that they will be in the next 2 to 3 years because they're very active in Russia. One is Sergei Fedorov. The other is Igor Larionov. I think they'll both be over in North America soon.
I'm surprised Igor Larionov I'm sure he's had offers and has chosen to stay where he's at. because he has been a huge part of Russian hockey in the management side the last number of years. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And he's getting up there in age, but he was someone who, like, even in the late 90s, early 2000s, I thought he was going to be the next Scotty Bowman. Like, he's going to be that level of a coach.
yeah, that is what's interesting is that, I mean, all of these guys have gone into the management side and not so much the coaching side. But I mean, that's what you follow the captain, right? The captain becomes a GM. Everyone wants to be a GM now.
That's it. And Anaheim apparently is following the Detroit model by hiring back all of their superstars from the glory days into made up positions.
A special advisor. What do you think is special about his advisory role?
His paycheck.
That it's larger than it should be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a paycheck, he gets a at Anaheim Ducks email address.
You don't think he could have gotten that just by asking? Like, hey guys, is S. Niedermeyer at AnaheimDucks.com taken? And actually it is. Steve Niedermeyer in accounting has that email. So you guys retire my number, but give away my email?
Imagine though, that's all it took. He's like, you know what? I'm coming out of retirement. I'm coming to work for you. I need that email address.
And I need Steve fired immediately.
Steve's just gone.
Yeah. He shows up on Monday morning, just his desk is empty. Just a note. You know what you did. Signed S. Niedermeyer 27.
Cardboard box.
Yeah. Step off.
Yeah. But I assume he gets a bunch of like highlights packages delivered to his email every day. Probably has to sit in on like weekly meetings, status meetings. Like, what do you think of this guy's play? What do you think of that guy's play?
Sits in the owner's box at games.
Yeah, I can see pizza and chicken wings.
Which is great because that's a way for him to not have to spend the cold winters in BC like he has been doing. Now he gets to go spend the winters in California.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cold in BC in the winters. So
I mean, it's not California.
It's not California.
I think Anaheim's a little bit warmer than
That's
interior
true.
BC.
Also, I'm sure that there's a bunch of people in northern BC who are like, you shut your mouth. We're freezing cold.
I was gonna say I've got family in northern BC. I think they're plenty chilly. But
yeah,
lower, I don't think that's where I don't know exactly where he is.
Anyways, he's in California now where he can wear shorts every day of the year.
Yeah. And they have, I don't know why, it always amazes me as a Canadian. The first time I went to the States and discovered the other thing called an outdoor mall.
Yeah.
You have a mall outside. You know it's warm. Don't understand how that's a thing we can do. But hey, I think it's going to be great for Anaheim. I mean, this is a team that's, even with what they've had, is built fairly well. And I think that they brought in someone that's been a part of really good rebuilds, knows what to do, and is going to continue this in a good way for them.
Also, Paul Kariya, though. Hold on. We can't move on without mentioning Paul Kariya. Apparently works for the team, too.
Yeah, I did not realize that he was on his special advisory is not just the email address, but he was on the GM search committee, which is an interesting, I did not realize that.
You know what? If I could be sincere for a minute, I am so happy that Paul Kariya is back in the like hockey circles. I was very worried about him for a long time because he just like disappeared. And anytime someone tried to seek him out, he was like, I can't do this, guys. Like, I'm not ready to be back around the sport. And the last couple of years, he started coming around again. He's been doing some more interviews. And I'm like sincerely very happy for him.
Yeah. Absolutely. I saw a comment thread. It was about a different sport. I don't know. I think it was baseball, whatever. But like Paul Kariya, the question was, who would you be most disappointed about if it turned out that they were a terrible person? And Paul Kariya might be that answer for me.
Oh, he's high on that list for sure.
Just if it turned out that Paul Kariya was awful in any way, I'd be like, oh, now I'm sad.
That would be sad.
But hey, so far so good. So let's just celebrate Paul Kariya being back.
And he looks great. I mean, he doesn't look like he hasn't aged, but he's aged very nicely.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of aging, any guess on how old Pat Verbeek is?
Pat Verbeek. I'm going to say he's like 55.
You're better at this than I am. 57.
Oh,
which I was made me feel old, for sure.
I know, but these guys retired. Like they played so late into their, like they retired old. It's not like today's game.
True. Very true.
This is back when like men, like actual like older men played in the league.
Right. Yeah, he played till he was 37. That's when he was in Dallas at the end of his career.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So that's the news of the week. We finally got through it all.
So should we eliminate the Ducks? All right. Let's temper this. That isn't actually who I was going to put forward.
Okay.
Let's go to the elimination station.
There we go.
Elimination station.
Elimination.
All right, we are back. The elimination station time. This is where we eliminate a team from the playoffs and we decide how to get them back into the playoffs. Let's review who is eliminated thus far. We have, I believe, eliminated 4 teams. And is that correct?
That's correct. I got the list up.
Nick, it is the Canadians, the Coyotes, the Kraken, and the Flyers.
That's
if I'm
right.
not mistaken?
Yep.
All right. So do you have a team in mind of who you wish to eliminate from the playoffs today?
I do.
All right.
Do you?
I do.
We're going to, on 3, we're both going to say it?
Yeah, let's do it. On 3.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Chicago Blackhawks. Yes.
Oh! I even said to you, I was like, I'm gonna take a little bit of a riskier pick this week, and look at us.
Look at us. I wasn't actually going to choose Chicago, but as we were talking about the Rocky Wirtz thing, I was like, you know what? Let's just get all the Chicago talk off the table this week, and we don't have to talk about them for a while.
Never again. We never have to talk about them again. So first thing you do with Chicago is you sell the team. That's the first thing you have to do to get them back to the playoffs.
Get a new owner, number 1.
And that owner cleans house and everyone in management is gone. And you just hire former Detroit Red Wings, but probably there's some that you shouldn't. I'm not going to name names. There's a few that former Red Wings from that area you should not hire. Some of them are doing wrestling matches.
Yeah, I'd actually agree with that. There are a few players that would not make good general managers.
No, but there's some good ones. So pick one of them. Maybe just
that is step 2 though, right? Like hire a GM.
They're working on it. Did you see who they interviewed this week?
I did.
Step number 2, once you sell the team and hire everyone, is to not hire Peter Chiarelli as your general manager.
What is this? What is even the thing about like posting news, like press releases about who you're interviewing for the position? Why are they doing this? Are they just trying to like drown out the other news?
Yeah, I'm not sure when that became a thing. I've been noticing it the last number of years in the NFL. And it seems like that is kind of the approach that this organization is taking from a
Very
PR
strange.
side.
Anyways, agreed. Don't do that.
Anyone that you should hire?
Man, who has not been snatched up yet? Like, who's that guy in Carolina? That assistant GM in Carolina that everyone keeps interviewing? Can't remember his name now. Tulsky or something.
I was gonna say they're like fancy stats guy.
Yeah,
Eric
Tulsky. Yeah,
Eric, the stats guy from Carolina. That'd be an interesting hire. I don't think that he would work well with Chiarelli. So
no, I don't think so either. Charlie has a bit of a history of chasing analytics out of the building.
I was gonna say because he was the guy that fired Justin Bourne, right? In Edmonton.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that guy, his name always gets tossed around. So does Sean Burks. I like this trend of going off the board though. Like agents.
Maybe like the hot dog guy, the hot dog vendor.
Yeah, it's a good. He'd be a good fit.
Thoughts?
He'd be a good fit in Chicago.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of going off the board and hiring people who are not currently GMs, you know who I thought about last week, who I hadn't thought about in months, is Pierre Maguire.
Ooh, because he's with Ottawa, correct?
He's like their director of scouting or something.
Yeah. I'm glad we don't have to think about him anymore.
Right? It was actually like a relief when I thought about him. I was like, oh, I forgot about him. Thank God we don't have to watch him on TV anymore.
Now everyone listening to this show is a little bit sadder because of that.
Why? Next hockey game you watch, it doesn't have to be Pierre Maguire.
That's true. That's
Just a good thing.
Think about the fact that they have like Ray Ferraro between the benches and not Pierre Maguire.
Exactly.
That's true. Good point.
You're welcome.
Sorry for bringing the negative.
Okay, Chicago Blackhawks. I don't know who they should hire. I think they should go off the board though. I like this trend of hiring agents.
Okay, so an agent. That sounds great to me. Alan Walsh. That would be a big get. Can you imagine him in a GM's meeting?
No, I can't.
I want to though. I want to so bad.
Just tweeting nonstop.
At Brad Marchand the entire time.
Right. So what about the on the ice product here?
So here's another thing. Most of what I'm gonna do is tell them what they shouldn't do. They shouldn't hire Peter Chiarelli. They also shouldn't trade Alex DeBrincat, which is apparently a rumored thing that they're thinking of doing.
Agreed. Don't do that. That's a bad idea.
So that's one thing. But so if they're out of the playoffs this year, because for a little context, okay, they are sitting at 39 points with 46 games played, which puts them 13 points out of a playoff spot in the West. That's 13 points out of the last wild card, but third last in this conference and second last in their division. In a pretty tough division, right? Like they're not gaining on Dallas, St. Louis, Minnesota, Nashville, Colorado. Like that's not happening for them.
Yeah. They're out of it.
Yeah. So with them being out, I think we look to what are pieces that they can move out. And are there any that stand out to you?
Marc-Andre Fleury. Maybe you have to retain some salary, but who cares?
Yeah. You aren't paying because this is his last year in that deal, right? There's nothing left after this. So easily go ahead and move him out.
Yeah.
And you'll get a lot for him. Not a lot. You'll get a good size piece for him.
For sure. More than you gave up for him. So that's a net win.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, because didn't they get paid? Didn't they get a third round pick to take him?
Yeah.
So maybe you'll get a second third round pick to get rid of him.
I could see that happening.
I would say more than a third. I think a third would be less than what they should get for him. You eat half that salary and a team's able to take that because $7 million is a lot, right? Especially with this flat cap, which is why Vegas had to pay him to go away. But you eat half of that. Now it's only $3.5 million. That's a very palatable number.
Totally. So I think they should do that. What about Calvin DeHaan? He's on the last year of his deal.
Yeah, I would guess. I bet you could get a second or a third for him.
Move him.
Yeah.
Who else on here do you think they should or could move?
I think expiring contracts wise, that's really it. They've got like some other pieces that maybe they could entice someone to pick up. But here's what's great about this team is that the big deals of Taves and Kane only have one more year on them.
Yeah.
Now, do you think at 10.5, if they eat half of it, there's certainly at 5.25, there is a market for Patrick Kane.
He's not going anywhere. You're right. There's absolutely a market for him. They're not going to move him.
I tried. Because of
he means too much.
Means.
Yeah, like he means too much to the franchise, to the fan base. He's their draw right now, still.
Yeah, I very much agree with that.
I think Jonathan Taves is done after his next deal.
I don't know if I think Jonathan Taves is done after this deal. I would be
That's what I mean. Sorry, after his next year.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I would be very surprised if he.
I think he's done.
This.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere else, and he's not re-signing here. He's the Chicago Blackhawks' next advisor of professional hockey advisory team.
Wait, loophole moment. Why don't they just hire him as their GM? This is what you do. You sign him to a $10.5 million contract to be your GM, and then he retires.
I'm pointing at my brain right now.
I switched off the camera, so I couldn't see that. It was a lot like what our listeners were experiencing. I was like,
not great, hey?
So that's my idea. You hire him as assistant GM, the highest paid assistant GM in the league, and you circumvent the heck out of that cap.
There you go. Not a bad idea, Carl.
Hey, maybe someone should be hiring me as the assistant GM.
Pat, I know we keep saying that about ourselves, and I'm still not getting any phone calls.
No, I did have someone reach out to me this week and say, "Hey, can we talk?" But it wasn't someone that would offer me a GM job. So
it's not the same.
It's not the same. And I reached out and I didn't hear back from them. So I don't really know what to do.
Well, keep your phone close just in case.
It's true. So that's one idea, but like, I don't see a lot. One, they have not very many expiring deals. And like, are you really like, any of these could be moved, right? Jake McCabe, Connor Murphy, but like, there's term left on them. You're fine moving them. You're fine keeping them. I don't really see any drop.
Doesn't really matter. Like, they're not going to bring in like a franchise altering return.
No, but they do. I mean, they need picks, right? They moved their first in the Seth Jones trade. They need to get something back there. So if they could manage to get a first for Marc-Andre Fleury, even a late first would be great.
It's going to be a hard sell, but yeah. I mean, that's what they need is a first rounder. You're right. Even if it's late.
Yep. But because you're not going to get a high first. That's not happening. And none of those teams that are picking high in the second are willing to move picks for a one-off of Marc-Andre Fleury. So it's better that maybe you could get a low second, maybe a multitude of picks, but bring some pieces in and just start to continue this growth, because they got very lucky with the Alex DeBrincat pick as a second rounder. Still no idea why he slipped so far.
Crazy.
And so just kind of build off of that. Use that as your starting piece moving forward, and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, they got their work cut out for them. That's for sure. It's not going to be an easy path forward, but they're also not starting from scratch.
No, and I think with this future cap flexibility that they'll have, like, I mean, Kirby Doc is there, and yeah, he hasn't been as great as he maybe was expected to be this year, but also started these last couple of years behind the eight ball. And I think that's the issue that a lot of these guys young players are going to experience in these COVID-y times, right? Where you're not experiencing the game in that same way. You're not getting the same amount of access to facilities sometimes that you need to for proper maintenance. And I think that'll improve more.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Okay. So can we be done talking about Chicago?
Yes.
They're eliminated.
They're done. See you, Chicago.
Bye, Chicago.
It sounded like you had something else, or was I misreading your tone? Did you have a different thought to add on at the before we head to our Pavel Bures?
No, absolutely not.
All right. Do you need us to finish this so you can go to bed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
That was your quick. Let's get this going.
You turn off your camera. I just close my eyes every once in a while.
All right. So we are going to head to the elimination station. No, we did that. I'm not the one who's tired. You are. Pavel Bures. We pick our must-watch games of the week. With this, you head to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast with the number 4, and you pick for each of these games what you think the winning team will be and the score of that game. To get any points, there was some confusion in the masses this week. to get any points, you have to pick the winning team. You pick the winning team, you get 1 point. If you pick either of the scores right, you get a bonus point for each of those teams to a total of 3 points per game. The standings are tightening up. I think we've got 4 or 5 players within 4 or 5 points at the top. So certainly a tight connection at the top there. So let's look to Wednesday. Now that we're back, not on the Olympic break, the schedule is going to be weird because this is mostly rescheduled games. So where are you looking?
Wednesday, Vegas, Calgary.
I agree. That's going to be a good one. Vegas, Calgary. In Calgary with a freshly announced set of big time fans at the game. So that's just in time. 2 games stand out to me on Thursday. Tampa, Colorado, Carolina, Boston. I feel like we've had a lot of both Colorado and Carolina lately. So
I know, but I'd rather watch Tampa, Colorado.
Tampa, Colorado game is going to be fun.
It's going to be a good game.
I did see during our recording, so Tuukka Rask made that comeback with the Bruins. Looks like he might be ending that. He's been experiencing some injury problems and likely done probably forever.
Yeah, probably at this point.
Yeah, so that's too bad. That's not the way that definitely he expected to go. Friday, I'm looking at a Central Division matchup. A couple teams pretty close in the standings. Winnipeg, Dallas.
Yeah, that's where I'd go to. The other matchups aren't great.
What do you feel Saturday?
Saturday is February 12th.
That it is.
I know. The app doesn't say the day, though. It just says the date.
If we're using the same app, it's right there.
We got to wrap this up. we got to wrap this up. How about on Saturday, I don't know, Toronto, Vancouver?
Sure.
7 p.m. game on the West Coast.
Yeah, let's go with it. That's a weird time for the Canucks to play. Time. Yeah. That's all right. That's their problem, not ours. Sunday, all early games to avoid the Super Bowl.
Of course.
We already probably the best game is that Colorado Dallas game.
Yeah.
Playoff rematch.
It is.
Right. I don't like picking Colorado. This comes across as biased, but
it's too bad Detroit isn't playing because Eminem's playing the halftime show. So that would have been a good lead up.
And Matthew Stafford is the quarterback of the Rams.
And Matthew Stafford. Oh man. All right. We can watch Detroit on Monday then. They're playing Minnesota.
I mean, it's fitting, right? You need to pick the team in the red jerseys on Valentine's Day.
True.
So, and they're the only ones playing.
They're probably going to wear white that night.
Jerseys. Minnesota has red jersey, a red version though. They should.
They do, yeah. Those are nice jerseys, actually.
They're good. All right, there you go. Those are our games of the week. Shortened version because we are coming out a day late, but nonetheless, get out there, make your picks, get those out at Fourth Line Podcast with the number 4 in there is our Twitter handle. That's where we play the game. Head on over there. And thank you to everyone who's been playing. It's been a ton of fun. Looking forward to handing out a big prize coming up here. Winner of the standings. For those of you near the top, even if you're in the top 10, if you're within 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points, you can still make a comeback. Winner of those standings at the end of, let's say, end of February? Because when's the regular season go till? End of March? End of April?
No, I think it's late. It goes late this year.
Yeah.
It'll be April.
End of April it goes till. So it'll have been 2 months. Yeah. Probably our first episode in March. We'll hand out a jersey.
Ooh, so exciting.
I'm excited to do that. But you need to play to be able to win. Also, thefourthlinepodcast.com is where you can find more about the show. Head on over to wherever you listen to podcasts and find us. We are there. Subscribe so that we will be there waiting for you every Monday night, unless Nick has to get in a pregame nap before he watches the women's team play. Is the gold medal game going to be Monday? Is that where it's slated to be? Do we have another
Wednesday?
Wednesday. Okay. So you can get in some nice rest before that game.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Thursday though, warning, Nick is not going to be productive.
No, I've already given them the heads up.
Are you taking a personal day or just I'm going to be useless?
TBD. We'll see.
I like it. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Find us everywhere. Full Press Radio, Full Press NHL as well. Great stuff over there. Head on over. Until next time.
It's time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. I'm too tired to properly sing this song. So I'm going to bed because my day's been very long. Good night.